Hello, Townsville Chamber members, and hello to our greater audience. I'm Kate Herron from the Townsville Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to our new interview series, Chamber Chats. Today we have Dr Jo Lukins with us, and we're very excited to speak with her. So, with a PhD in psychology, over 25 years experience, and a breadth of knowledge in sport, organisational and educational domains, Dr. Jo delivers programs in resilience and expert performance. Dr. Jo has worked with elite athletes and outstanding professionals throughout her career, giving her a unique insight into the world of success. Most recently, in June 2019, she released her book, The Elite, and has featured in various publications and media outlets throughout her career. So, welcome, Dr. Jo.
Thank you for having me along.
Thank you. So, recently I read that you are a psychological Indiana Jones. That's amazing and a fantastic title to have. So, but a tough one to wear in COVID-19. So the whole world has been turned upside down. We do things differently. Business life has changed. So you felt this firsthand. The government made their announcements and your diary emptied.
My diary emptied very quickly. I went from having I was blessed with a full diary, and then I went to an empty diary. So I guess you're right, there's an irony, I guess, in some ways when you have some expertise in an area and then you go through it yourself. But I guess what it does is it very much humanises that knowledge. And so, like so many in our region, I know what it is to be travelling through this, I guess, at the coalface.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough time. And during this time, how do we stay motivated during isolation, or in the famous term that we hear so much, hibernation? How does that work?
Yeah, it's tricky for us because I think one of the biggest things that happens is that we're dealing with loss in a range of ways. So it's impacted perhaps, I think there's very few people on the planet that haven't been impacted by this. So whether it be in our employment, whether it be in our sport, in our families, in our community groups, there's impact everywhere. So that has, there's an emotional cost to that comes with that.
Yeah.
And then of course the other thing that happens, as you mentioned in your question, is that it impacts on our motivation as well. That life as we knew it has changed, not of our choosing, and that's tough when we're going through that. And then it's really about how do we move forward in the best way that we can, being mindful of all that we're going through and not putting overly tough expectations on ourselves as well.
Yeah.
It's a balance.
And talking about that balance, it's a self-reflection process, isn't it, too? And I know that you have mentioned in previous times almost like a study of looking at yourself in the mirror. So is that something that perhaps us as humans can adopt during this time?
It would be great if we could. I think that's a really helpful starting point, that, as you said, to look in the mirror, because we need to understand how this is impacting us. Because, there's two things that I think people find when life feels out of control and unpredictable, is when people really start to struggle. I know that for myself, and I know that for many. And so what we do is we try to understand what's going on, we try to make decisions, we try to retake control in a situation where there's lots of things we can't control. Lots of things are happening to us, and then it's really about how we react and we respond to that.
Yeah.
So the starting point for regaining control, if you like, is to look in the mirror and go, how am I doing? How am I going? How have I been feeling? What have I been thinking? What have I been doing? Am I sleeping? All those sorts of things. And it's okay. This is definitely a time where it's okay to not be okay at the moment.
It's being honest with yourself to be able to deal with everything else. Really, isn't it?
Because this is not a situation that any of us likes necessarily.
Yeah.
Yet when we can accept what it is, then it puts us in the path to be able to move forward. And if we pretend it's not happening, if we try to push away the feelings, none of that is really helpful for us long term. So even though it can feel a bit raw at times, and I know, I can think of moments, and I know you can too, Kate. I know you've travelled your own journey with this as well. And there's some very raw moments there, and that's what they are. And as best we can, we want to try to acknowledge those things, and then that puts us in a position for moving forward at whatever pace that might be.
Yeah. So I suppose that acknowledgement also comes into, there's a lot of us that have this inability to plan ahead at the moment. We're struggling to see what the future's going to look like. And there's two sets of businesses in this realm. There's the long-term businesses, and then there's our startups and entrepreneurs that are facing the same thing that we all are. So I suppose for our long-term businesses, they're very used to saying, here's my 1 to 5 year plan. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to conquer our journey. So now that really a 1, 2 and 5 year plan doesn't exist with COVID-19, how do they break that down to feel better about themselves, and what are some tips that they can use to move forward in that area to plan?
Yeah. So back to what we were saying about what happens at the individual level, that organisations need to accept the reality of whatever it is. Again, don't have to like it, but we need to accept it. And then it's, well, as best we know right now, what can we do?
Yeah.
You know, and like you say, that we may or may not be in a position to plan ahead or know what that's going to look like, and it's going to, you know, be individualised to every business, obviously. But it's you know, maybe the lesson for us to learn in this is dealing with uncertainty, which I know is what most of us don't particularly like. I keep coming back to that, but that notion of being in control is important to many people, particularly people in business. You know, understandably we need that, and so I think that this is an opportunity for us to understand what can we do, and that's where it's important if you're working with your staff, is how can you reassure your staff as best you can with what you know to be true without telling them something that we don't know to be true. You don't want false hope, but you don't want to lose hope either. You know, I think hope sometimes gets a bad rap. You know, I've had people say to me before, you know, hope is not a strategy. And hope is not a strategy, but gee, it's a good foundation for, you know, hoping things are going to go forwards. We certainly don't want a life that's hopeless.
No, we don't. And do you think, you know, being that raw and real and having that hope for our budding entrepreneurs and our startups, because since 2016 regionally there's been a massive push and it was supported by government initiatives for our startups and our entrepreneurs to go out and start their journey and create something out of nothing, essentially. And they've all been grinded to a halt with COVID-19. Now, some of them may have only been in business for 6 to 12 months, and that's quite infant in the business space. So is that reset process or that pivot process very similar? Do you think emotionally the same as a long-term business?
I do think it's different because you know, obviously, like you say, the amount of experience within that business, even if it's a person who is experienced in business, within this particular business experience, it's relatively short. And so I do think there's probably some differences there. And there's no doubt it's a challenge, and particularly for those businesses that, as you say, that phrasing of it, you know, whoever's been ground to a halt, is there's certainly an opportunity there. And you know, you're going to hear me say the word opportunity quite often. No,
it's a great word to use
because it is about, you know, what are the opportunities around that. This is a chance for me to stop and reflect and to, again, look in the mirror for our business and to see, you know, what can we do taking forward, what's been working for us, what hasn't been working for us, you know, what could we do differently. So it provides that opportunity, and I think we've seen so much creativity within the region as well.
100%, and it's been refreshing.
Yeah, which is great, and I think it's about striking that balance and understanding that not everyone's in that space necessarily. Everyone will travel their own journey with this, but I think it's important to have some hope and to look forward with
see the opportunity
and to see the opportunities where we can, but also to be gentle on ourselves and understand, even with the opportunities, you know, whenever we take a risk, there's all the adrenaline and all the anxiety that goes with that, in addition to the excitement. You know, I sometimes say that, you know, sometimes maybe anxiety is just excitement in disguise. That being said, it's fatiguing. So, you know, and particularly if you're a business who's already under fatigue, and I know many businesses in our region have had more than their fair share of things going on, and as a region as well, we've had natural experiences as well in the last 18 months and so forth as well. So lots of things going on for us. So we want to be optimistic looking forward, but we also need to take care of ourselves through this process as well.
Yeah, that's great advice, to take care of ourselves and be kind. So, and that, I suppose, is a great segue to the emotional side and being kind to ourselves, because a common line that we're hearing from not only a number of our members, but our greater audience as well, is that, you know, I'm doing really well, but I get to the end of the week and I feel like the entire world is caving in on me, which is a very raw emotion and very honest for people to express that. So what are some tips for how at the end of the week you can reassess and reset emotionally for that, to get ready for the next week?
Yeah. So I think it's almost like the game plan that you would put to a group of elite athletes. You know, I've spent a lot of years in that space, and it's almost like you get to the end of the week, and so there is an opportunity for a little bit of reflection at that point. You know, I think it's valuable to think about what went well this week.
Yep.
And it's very easy, you know, and the opportunity to digest negative news at the moment is huge. Typically, what we were saying pre-COVID is that the ratio of positive to negative news was about 17 to 1, which wasn't good to start with, you know. So 17 negative news stories to every one positive. I always said to people, if you wanted a positive news story, just flicked on in between the sport and the weather and you saw, you know, someone have their cat rescued. So that's what tended to happen. I can only imagine what those figures are now. I'm thinking back and trying to remember the last, you know, even the sport at the moment is fairly bleak and short, and it's usually about things that aren't necessarily about our athletes. So, you know, there's a potential to take on that digest of that negativity, and I think it's really important for us to seek the good. And that's one of the things that's really helpful for us to do, and to look for that at times such as this.
Yeah. And I suppose you'd be adopting those yourself, really, like being in that position as we talked about at the beginning of the interview, and having to reset, and you may feel the same way. You know, we're all human, and I know I have. You have a great week and then you've got to reset, and it is definitely a mindset thing to be able to drag yourself through, for want of a better term, to the next week.
That's
really.
Right, and I think that's why it's useful to stop and congratulate yourself for getting through the week.
Yep.
You know, like got through the week and what went well, and then also, you know, what were the lumps along the way? What were the things that perhaps didn't go so well? How could I either do those things differently? Am I likely to encounter them next week? What's sort of a little bit of my game plan for next week? And then I think the important thing, and I know every business runs differently, so don't necessarily work off weekdays and weekends. But whatever the point is within your week where there's a natural break, and let's hope for businesses that there are, is to have a little bit of downtime. You know, we would never say to an elite athlete, well, just train all day, every day, and that will make you fantastic. Part of what makes you great is that you have opportunities for rest and recovery. So businesses, and I know it's, you know, and this is where our entrepreneurs will be, I'm sure, watching the podcast and going, she has no idea. I do have an idea, and I do understand it's different, but I do also understand is that your business will benefit when you can build some sort of rest factors in there, and you might need to think creatively about what that might look like or how you might do that.
Yeah, it's all about being kind to yourself in this time.
Is.
And I think a lot of learnings from that for our business owners coming out of this as well, maybe keeping some of that self-kindness as time moves on. But as we sort of come towards the end of our chamber chat, there's one final topic that I'd really like your insight on, and we want to touch base on, is something that we're seeing a lot more of, is something we call success guilt. So there is a number of businesses out there and individuals, their business is thriving, some people still have their jobs, they're still very well employed, so financially they're doing quite well. And as a matter of fact, just recently I spoke to a chamber member and a business contact. They were doing that well, they just went and bought a fleet of vehicles, but he was, you know, felt quite guilty about that, and quite a little bit sad in some regards, because they're doing so well, but yet half of the world is not doing so great right now. So what's your advice to someone with half of the world falling apart for some of our businesses and other ones thriving and doing well financially? What's your advice on how the ones doing well can deal with that success guilt and really get through that?
Yeah, well, the first thing is congratulations, well done to those that are in that are in that position. And I think that if circumstances are such that you've been blessed with some opportunities and you're out there and you know, things are going well for your business, that's okay too, you know. Like, I understand, so guilt is one of those feelings that come about often when we should on ourselves. You know, this shouldn't be happening for us, but it is, and I'm glad that it is. Now I feel bad that I feel glad, you know, and all these sorts of things. And there's no doubt that if you ever need to have your day levelled, put on the 6 o'clock news and see what the first 2 stories are. So there's no doubt about that at all. And I've heard lots of people from lots of different endeavours talk about that, exactly what you say, that feeling of guilt that I'm doing well at a time when people aren't. And I guess the challenges are about thinking about it in terms of the greater good. We need people to be going well.
Yes.
You know, can you imagine what it would mean for our community if it was going terribly for everyone?
Yes.
Like that. You know, mood is contagious, and what we need is our success stories at the moment to sort of help carry us through at the moment. Now, there's going to be a balance, so you know, you maybe not going to put yourself out on social media and going, wow, we're rolling in so much money right now that you know, so clearly no one's going to do that. But it's about that understanding that maybe where that level of community responsibility lies now is in terms of helping to bolster mood, in terms of seeking opportunities, that if you are blessed to be doing well within your business, is there something else that you could be doing at a community level to help?
Yep.
You know, and whether that be financial support or through your staff or through what your service delivery is, can you donate something? What can you do, or how can you support other businesses and help them?
Yep.
You know, like, and one of the reasons it's important for two reasons. One, because it's just important that we help each other. You know, this is a time when we need it more than any. But the other thing is, in terms of happiness, we know the two biggest predictors of happiness for people come from when we're grateful for the things that we have and when we help other people. So not only does it help the person that you help, but it helps us too. And some people say to me, oh, I don't think that's a good reason to be doing it. Well, why not? You know?
Yeah.
So if you can help someone else, they get the benefit of it, and then that feels good within. What's going to happen is it's going to help bolster your mood even further, and it means you're going to do greater good. So I always think that success can be like a stone being thrown into a pond and it ripples out. And I might share, if I may, my favourite quote is that a candle loses nothing by lighting another flame. It's always been my favourite. A candle loses nothing by lighting another flame. And so if you are in a position that you are doing okay, that you're doing well, can you light another flame? Can you help someone else along the way? And look, and maybe your role at this point in time is just knuckle down and just get what you need to get done for your business and keep it going.
That light is still there.
And go and buy those coffees and go and get your takeaway lunches and go and do all those sorts of things, because, you know, we're going to need you when we get through this. So be those role models and create the opportunities, because why wouldn't you capitalise on that?
Yeah. No, that's wonderful advice. And look, you know, we have so many things to take away from this and having the chat with us. And Dr. Jo, we can't thank you enough for your time today. So our chamber members and our greater audience will really have some, you know, wonderful take-homes from you for today. So thank you for taking the time out to come and speak with us, because I know that you would be busy and still trying to help everyone, as you said. So look, that brings today's Chamber Chat to a close, and thank you so much to everybody who has taken the time to check in and spend some time with myself and Dr. Jo. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, Townsville. Thank you.